The world does not reward the good, it rewards the strong. This is the dark truth most people refuse to face. Nietzsche saw it clearly. Morality often exists not to elevate humanity, but to restrain it. While kind people seek approval and fairness, ruthless individuals act without apology, driven by will rather than guilt. Power does not ask for permission. It takes form through those who dare to assert themselves beyond fear, beyond resentment, beyond moral comfort. To understand why ruthless people rise, you must first understand how weakness disguises itself as virtue and how strength is condemned as cruelty. People like to believe that the world rewards virtue, patience, and fairness. This belief is comforting, but it is not true. Life does not distribute success according to moral merit. It responds to force, intensity, and assertion. Those who wait to be chosen are rarely chosen. Those who act as if they belong often do. Power does not ask whether you deserve it. It responds to the one who reaches for it with conviction. The mistake many make is confusing worth with effectiveness. They assume that being morally right, well-intentioned, or hard-working should naturally lead to influence. When this fails, they grow bitter. They call the successful, ruthless, unethical, or corrupt. But this judgment changes nothing. The world continues to move in favor of those who impose their will upon it. It's not through chaos, but through decisiveness. I observed long ago that life itself is an expression of will. Every organism strives to expand, to overcome resistance, to shape its environment. Humans are no different, except that they disguise this drive beneath ideals and excuses. The one who acknowledges this will act directly. The one who denies it moralizes. Moralizing is what the powerless do when action is unavailable to them. Those who win are not always the most intelligent or talented. They are the ones who are willing to commit themselves fully to a direction without waiting for permission. They risk being disliked. They risk being wrong. They risk standing alone. This willingness separates the strong from the hesitant. Strength is not cruelty, it is capacity. It is the ability to carry consequence without retreating into blame or self-pity. Society teaches people to restrain this capacity early. It praises humility while secretly rewarding dominance. It condemns ambition while celebrating those who succeed. This contradiction produces inner conflict. Many learn to desire power while pretending not to want it. The ruthless individual resolves this conflict by refusing to lie to himself. He admits his desire to shape outcomes and accepts the cost of doing so. This does not mean trampling others indiscriminately. It means refusing to shrink for the comfort of those who fear assertion. The one who wins does so because he is willing to stand where others hesitate. He moves while they debate. He acts while they judge. And here's the truth that unsettles most people. The world does not reward those who wait to be worthy. It rewards those who decide to be powerful first. What people call morality is often not a celebration of virtue, but a strategy of survival. It did not arise from strength overflowing, but from weakness seeking protection. Those who lacked the power to act learned instead to judge. Unable to strike, they learned to condemn. Unable to dominate, they learned to moralize. In this way, morality became a tool, not to elevate life, but to restrain it. While to restrain it, I have called this the morality of the herd. It praises humility, obedience, and restraint, not because these are noble in themselves, but because they keep everyone at the same level. When no one rises too high, no one threatens the fragile. Strength, ambition, and intensity are framed as dangerous or immoral. Not because they are harmful, but because they disrupt equality. The herd fears difference more than injustice. This moral system reverses values. What is strong is labeled evil. What is assertive is called selfish. What is independent is condemned as arrogance. Meanwhile, weakness is rebranded as kindness, and inability as virtue. This inversion allows those without power to feel morally superior to those who possess it. It is a clever revenge, one that requires no action, only judgment. Ruthless individuals often recognize this game instinctively. They sense that moral outrage is frequently a mask for envy or resentment. When they act without seeking moral permission, they are attacked not because they have done harm, but because they have broken an unspoken rule. Do not remind others of what they lack. The herd forgives many sins, but it does not forgive superiority. This does not mean morality is entirely false or useless. It serves a function. It creates order among the many. But when it is mistaken for absolute truth, it becomes hostile to excellence. It punishes those who exceed the average and rewards those who conform. The higher type, the creator, the one driven by excess of life, must therefore stand apart. He cannot allow his path to be dictated by the resentments of others. To rise, one must recognize when morality is being used as a chain rather than a guide. Not every rule deserves obedience. Not every condemnation deserves respect. Strength must learn to endure being misunderstood. And this is the uncomfortable conclusion few dare to face. Morality often serves the weak, not by making them better, but by keeping the strong from becoming more. Ruthlessness is one of the most misunderstood qualities in human life. It is almost always confused with cruelty, as if strength must delight in destruction. This misunderstanding is convenient because it allows society to condemn what it secretly fears. True ruthlessness is not driven by hatred or malice. It is driven by independence. It is the capacity to act without needing moral reassurance from others. The strong individual does not become ruthless by harming for pleasure. He becomes ruthless by refusing to negotiate with weakness, especially his own. He cuts away hesitation, self-deception, and inherited guilt. He does not ask whether his actions will be liked. He asks whether they are necessary. This clarity appears harsh to those who live by comfort and consensus. To them, every decisive act feels violent because they themselves are indecisive. What people truly resent in the ruthless is not their behavior, but their freedom. A person who acts without apology exposes the chains others still wear. He reminds them that their obedience is a choice, not a destiny. This reminder breeds hostility. Thus, the strong are accused of being immoral, heartless, or dangerous. These accusations are weapons, not judgments of truth, but defenses against self-awareness. Ruthlessness, in its higher form, is a discipline. It requires immense control. To remain focused while others attempt to shame you demands strength. To continue forward while being misunderstood demands endurance. The ruthless individual does not react to every insult or challenge. He knows that constant justification weakens action. He allows others to speak while he moves. There is also a solitude that accompanies this strength. The one who refuses to bend cannot expect universal acceptance. He must be prepared to walk alone at times. This solitude is not a punishment. It is the price of independence. Most people avoid it by surrendering their will to collective opinion. The ruthless individual accepts it because he values self-command more than belonging. This does not mean abandoning all empathy or connection. It means refusing to let emotion replace judgment. Compassion that undermines strength is not virtue. It is decay. Life advances through those who preserve intensity, not those who dilute it to remain agreeable. And here's the truth few will admit aloud. Ruthlessness is not the absence of humanity, it is the refusal to sacrifice one's strength to protect others from discomfort. Resentment is the hidden engine behind much of what passes for moral judgment. It arises not from strength, but from impotence, from the inability to act, to create, to impose one's will upon the world. When action is denied, judgment takes its place. The resentful man does not strike. He condemns. He does not build. He discredits. In this way, resentment disguises itself as virtue. I observe that those who feel powerless rarely admit it to themselves. Instead, they transform their frustration into a moral narrative. They convince themselves that not acting is a sign of goodness, that restraint is superiority, that obedience is wisdom. Meanwhile, those who act decisively are portrayed as dangerous or corrupt. This moral theater allows resentment to feel justified rather than ashamed. The ruthless individual threatens this illusion. His success exposes the truth that others could have acted but did not. His assent feels like an accusation, even when none is intended. This is why resentment turns hostile toward strength. It cannot tolerate living proof that excuses were unnecessary. It must therefore reframe success as injustice and power as immorality. Resentment is creative only in one sense. It creates enemies, divides the world into oppressors and victims, strong and evil, weak and good. This division simplifies life for those who cannot endure complexity. It allows them to hate without responsibility and to condemn without self-examination. The ruthless, by contrast, must confront themselves constantly. They cannot hide behind moral outrage. They must justify their existence through action alone. What makes resentment particularly dangerous is its persistence. It remembers slights, real or imagined, and builds entire belief systems around them. It does not seek growth. It seeks revenge through judgment. It prefers that no one rise rather than face the discomfort of its own limitations. In this sense, resentment is hostile to life itself, which is always uneven, always unequal, always excessive. To recognize resentment is to strip moral language of its false authority. One begins to ask not whether an action offends morality, but whether the judgment comes from strength or from wounded pride. This question alone dissolves many illusions. It reveals how often condemnation is merely disguised envy. The ruthless individual understands this and refuses to bow before resentful judgment. He does not argue with it. He moves beyond it. He knows that to seek approval from resentment is to invite self-betrayal. And this is the unsettling truth resentment fears most. Those who act from strength are not evil, they simply refuse to live as excuses. Every action, when stripped of polite explanations, is an expression of power. Not power in the crude sense of domination alone, but power as expansion. The desire to assert, to influence, to leave a mark upon the world. I call this the will to power, and it is not a moral defect. It is the pulse of life itself. To deny it is to deny what animates every living being. Most people are uncomfortable with this idea. They prefer to believe their actions are motivated by duty, kindness, or necessity. These explanations feel safer, yet beneath them lies the same drive. The wish to affirm oneself, to matter, to overcome resistance. Even submission can be a form of power when it secures safety or moral superiority. There is no escape from this dynamic. The only difference lies in whether one acknowledges it honestly or disguises it behind noble language. Ruthless individuals tend to win because they do not waste energy denying their will. They understand that every situation contains a struggle of forces, ambitions, fears, desires, competing for expression. While others hesitate, caught between impulse and guilt, the ruthless act with clarity. They do not apologize for wanting more. They do not pretend that power is something shameful. Its honesty gives them coherence. It's what their actions move in one direction rather than pulling against themselves. Those who deny their will to power often become internally divided. They desire influence, but condemn it. They crave recognition, but shame ambition. This inner conflict weakens action. The individual hesitates, second-guesses, and seeks justification instead of movement. Life passes, opportunities close, and resentment grows. Power does not disappear when it is denied. It turns inward and corrodes. Understanding the will to power does not mean surrendering to brutality. It means taking responsibility for one's drives. The higher individual refines power rather than repressing it. He channels it into creation, mastery, and self-overcoming. He competes first with himself, raising his own standards rather than lowering the world to meet his comfort. When power is acknowledged consciously, it becomes disciplined. When it is denied, it becomes reactive and destructive. This is why those who appear morally pure often act most viciously when finally provoked. They have never learned to integrate their strength. The ruthless winner understands something the moralist avoids. Life is not a courtroom, and existence does not require permission. Power flows toward those who accept it as part of themselves and learn to shape it deliberately. And this is the truth that unsettles the comfortable. Those who master the will to power do not dominate blindly. They become forces that life itself moves through. 2. To transcend good and evil does not mean to become cruel for its own sake, nor does it mean abandoning all restraint. It means refusing to let inherited moral categories dictate the limits of your becoming. Most people never question the values they live by. They inherit them as one inherits a language, a religion, a sense of guilt. They call this morality. I call it obedience disguised as virtue. Good and evil, as commonly understood, are not eternal truths. They are interpretations created by particular types of people under particular conditions. The weak, unable to act directly upon the world, learn to judge it instead. They name strength evil, ambition, greed, dominance, immorality. In doing so, they gained a subtle power, the power to shame, to restrain, to make the strong doubt themselves. This moral inversion did not defeat power, it merely drove it underground. Those who win do not win because they are immoral. They win because they are not imprisoned by moral fear. They act from inner necessity rather than external approval. They create their own standards based on life, not resentment. This is what frightens the many. A person who creates values does not ask to be justified. He justifies himself through action. To live beyond good and evil is to accept responsibility without excuse. There is no higher court to appeal to, no moral shelter to hide behind. Your actions are yours alone. This is why most people cling to morality. It absolves them of authorship. They can blame rules, gods, society. The strong individual cannot. He must bear the weight of his choices fully. This weight is what refines him. Ruthlessness, in this sense, is not brutality. It is clarity. It is the ability to cut away what weakens life, habits, beliefs, loyalties that no longer serve growth.
Oh.
It is the refusal to lie to oneself in order to remain comfortable. The ruthless individual is not cruel toward others by necessity. He is uncompromising toward himself. When a person steps beyond good and evil, life changes texture. There is less guilt, less justification, less need to explain. Action becomes direct. Failure becomes instruction. Opposition becomes resistance to overcome, not proof of wrongdoing. Such a person may be hated, misunderstood, or condemned, but he is free. And here is the final truth most will never accept. Those who dare to create their own values do not ask whether they are allowed to win, they win, and let the world argue afterward.